30 verses. Therafusa. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Fusa. Reborn in this Buddha age as the son of the ruler of a province, he was named Fusa, and was trained in all the accomplishments of noble youths. But because of the conditions to which he had attained, his heart hung not upon worldly desires, so that when he heard a certain great Thera preach the path, he believed, and entered the monk's order. Practicing himself in jhana, he by that established insight, and in due course acquired sixfold abhina. Now one day an ascetic named Paragata heard him teach the path. And seeing around the Thera a company of bhikkhus all of virtuous conduct, trained and controlled in body and mind, that ascetic thought, "Excellent faith is the system. Long may it prevail on earth." And he asked the Thera, "How will it be, your reverence, with the progress of bhikkhus in the future?" To explain this situation the compilers first placed this verse. Parasagata, monk. Seeing such a goodly audience, modest, quiet, meditative. Questions asked, addressing Fusa. What in the days to come will be your aims? And what will be your tendencies, and what will be your customs and observances? To me who ask you do you this declare? Fusa. Listen to my words, seer, Parasa named, and store them in your mind attentively. I will pronounce concerning things to come. Hasty of temper and malign, arrogant, hypocritical, deceitful, envious, vigorous. Thus many in those days shall be, deeming they know the depths of truth, while standing at the water's edge. Flighty, irreverent towards the path, and mutually irreverent. Yes, many evils on this earth shall in the future come to pass. This path of ours so well set forth, the stupid-minded will corrupt. When in the meeting voice and vote are given, men, though in virtue poor, will forward be, in backers strong, abusive, and unscholarly. When in the meeting voice and vote are given, they of virtuous mind and honesty will weaklings be, of shamefaced mood and little zeal. Silver and gold, fields, sites, and herds, slaves, maids and men, in days to come, the undiscerning will accept, and foolish ones in irritated mood, lacking in ethical restraint, will savagely go about, like wild things spoiling for a fight. Soberness they will not know. They will be draped in robe of blue, hypocrites, stiff-necked, obstinate chatterers, skilled diplomatists, counterfeiting the saints of old. Hair sleek with oil, and not serious looking, and eyelids with collyrium colored, and wrapped in robe of ivory hue. Thus will they go about the streets. The yellow robe, that goodly dye, that freed ones wear without disgust. The banner of the arahant creates in them but uneasiness, who crave after robes of white. Greedy of gain they will become, sluggish and poor in energy, finding fatigue in woodland places. Around the township will they stay, and ever bent on wrongful ways. Without restraint, as pupils apt, they'll follow those who get most gifts. But they to whom no gifts are given will find nor honor nor regard. Though they be men of worth and charm, no following will be theirs that day. Scorning their own, the yellow gear, some will wear red of foreign dye, and others will be found to wear white robes of some sectarian flag. Disianure toward the yellow robe, they in those days will show. Bhikkhus will not consider what it means. Want of discernment such as this was tragedy unthinkable to that wise beast who lay overcome by pain, wounded, in dreadful distress. For the sixth Dusker then saw the well-dyed flag of Arahants, and there anent the elephant. Pointing the moral, verses spoke. Who makes vice, yet dons the saffron robe, keeping apart from self-control and truth. Unworthy he to wear the saffron hue, who vice rejects, firm in virtuous ways, and yokes himself to self-control and truth. Worthy is he to wear the saffron hue. Immoral, stupid, and perverse. A wanton doer, one whose heart wavering, whose mind is overcast. Unworthy he of saffron robe. He who with virtue blessed, is freed from passion, is intent in heart. Whose hopes and purposes are white, worthy is he of saffron robe. A fool with mind puffed up, distraught, for whom no moral code exists. Gear white of hue did he deserve. For saffron robe what use has he? Monks and sisters, in that day, with hearts corrupt, and impious, will bully and humiliate such as have trained their hearts in love, and fools even by their elders taught rightly to wear and use the robe. For want of wit will listen not, perverse and wanton doers all. And so the fools, instructed thus, lacking in mutual respect, will not their tutor's word obey, no more than vicious Hacket's groom. Thus in the age that is to come, will be the course and tendencies of bhikkhus and of bhikkhunis, when the last time shall be at hand. Until this time of mighty dread, that now is not shall come to pass. Be you of gentle, docile hearts, filled with a mutual regard. Be loving and be pitiful, and well controlled in virtue's ways, strenuous, bent upon the goal, and onward ever bravely press. That danger did in flirtation lie, that earnestness is sure and safe. This when you see, then cultivate the eightfold path, so shall you touch. So make your own, the deathless way. Thus spoke the Therad to his congregation. Now just these verses were his declaration of Anna Thera Sariputta. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Sariputta. His story and that of Moggallana the Great are taken together. Eons ago, in the days of the Buddha Anomadisi, they were playmates, named Sarada and Siyavada, sons, the one of an eminent Brahmin, the other of a great landowner. Sarada succeeded to his father's estate, but oppressed with the general doom of all creatures, he left the world to seek a path of release, inviting Siyavada to do likewise. I cannot, answered Siyavada, but he yielded when Sarada, as a rishi, had been visited by the Buddha. Now all Sarada's followers became arahants after hearing Anoma, the chief disciple, preach the path. But Sarada himself, being preoccupied in mind, was unable to penetrate to the paths and the fruits. Upon that both Sarada and Siyavada aspired, in presence of the Buddha, to occupy, like Anoma, the post of chief disciples to a Buddha in the future. This the Buddha promised should come to pass in the days of Gautama Buddha. There is no record of their subsequent karma. But before our exalted one arose, Sarada was reborn not far from Rajagaha. At the township of the Upatisas, of Rupasari the Brahmini, and on the same day Siyavada was born, not far from Rajagaha, at the township of the Kalitas, of Mogali the Brahmini. And because each was the son of the head of his family, the one was named Upatisa, the other Kalita. Both boys were reared in luxury, and excelled in all accomplishments. But seeing the crowds one day assembled for the hilltop fair at Rajagaha, they both, because their insight had attained maturity, saw how, within a century, all that folk would fall into the jaws of death, and with urgency they decided to seek a doctrine of release. And they left the world in the school of the wanderer Sanjaya, agreeing each to tell the other if he first arrived at Amida. In Sanjaya's teaching they found nothing genuine, and pursued their quest, asking recluses and Brahmins, till through Asaji the Bhikkhu, they found the Exalted One, and were by him initiated into monkhood with the laying on of the hand and the words, "Come, Bhikkhus." Made stream winner by Asaji's summary of the path, they had no need to study, for each of the other three paths. Why? Because of their consummate knowledge even as disciples. By that the venerable Moggallana On the seventh day, at the village of Kalevala in Magadha, overcame sloth and torpor by the Lord's injunction, and listening to an exercise on elements, won the topmost point, while the venerable Sariputta, half a month after his initiation into monkhood, won it while living with the Lord in the Skarakata cave at Rajagaha. While Nikàya, the wanderer, his sister's son, was being taught the Vedana Paragaha Suttan Tat. Thereafter the Lord, in conclave at Jetavana, ranked Sariputta chief among his disciples in wisdom and insight. And he, established in the position of general of the path, working for the good of beings, one day thus declared his Anna before his fellow disciples. Whosoever according to his powers is virtuous, saintly, clear in mind, earnest his purpose to perform, who loves introspective work, well concentrated and intent, lone and detached, blissful, serene, this man is rightly bhikkhu named. Whenever he eats food moist or dry, let him not fully satisfied be. Lean in the stomach, modest at meals, and watchful let the bhikkhu walk his way. Has he but eaten mouthfuls 4 or 5? Let him drink water. Here is sure enough refreshment for a bhikkhu filled with zeal. Things that are seemly let him get and take. Clothing that's worn for this specific end. Comfort enough for bhikkhu filled with zeal. And when he sits cross-legged on his couch, if but his knees be protected from falling rain, it is comfort enough for bhikkhu filled with zeal. Whosoever has looked on pleasure as but pain, who has discerned in pain the piercing dart, saw no any self between the two. What world will hold, what fate detain that man? Never give me one with evil in his heart, inert, inactive, and intractable, knowing but little of the holy path. What world will hold, what fate detain that man? He who is learned in the holy path, can understand, is thoroughly intent on moral base, and knit to inward calm. Let him for me the head and foremost stand, whose heart is to obsessions given over, a deer seduced by fascination's trap. He from nibbana goes far astray, to utmost shelter fails to find the course. But he who from obsessions clears the heart, delighting in that path where these are not, he to nibbana surely finds the way, to utmost shelter safely steers his course. Now one day the Thera, seeing where his younger brother Riveda was living, a waterless jungle of thorn and acacia trees, commended him, saying, in village or the wild, in valley, on hill, wherever the men of worth, the Arahants, their living make, delightful is that spot. Delightful are the forests, where no crowd did come to take its pleasure. There will they, who are released from passions, find their joy. Not seekers they for sense satiety. Again, the Thera showing kindness to an unfortunate Brahmin named Radha, caused him to leave the world and enter the monk's order. Afterwards, while on tour, he addressed Radha, pleased with his gentle behavior, as one who shows where treasures hidden lie. So is the man of wisdom who discerns what to avoid, and utters sage advice. If such an able guide you see and heed, for you who follow, better it is, not worse. Now one day, the Lord not going himself to suppress the corrupt settlement of the Assaji Punabasubhikhas on Ki Hill, Sariputta went instead with Moggallana and their followers. And when Sariputta's instruction was disregarded, he spoke thus: one should teach, one should instruct, forbid, hinder that which is mischievous and wrong. So acting, by the good is one beloved. It is only evildoers who take dislike. When the monks were saying that he whom the master was teaching, namely, Nikàya the wanderer, was fully prepared by his antecedents, Sariputta intervened, saying, that was not so. Another was to whom he taught the path. The exalted one, the Buddha, he who sees. For while the path was being taught I heard, seeking for good with hearing with all attention. And not in vain, I believe, my listening. For I have won release, am sane, immune. Nor to attain the vision of my past. Nor for the means to see, the eye divine. The mystic power to read the thoughts of men. Discern decease, rebirth in earth and heaven. Nor for the ear celestially attuned. Had I to pitch and to adjust the mind. The next 3 stanzas were spoken of him, when, living at the Dove's Cave Vihara, he took no injury from the Yakha's blow. Seated at foot of tree, with shaven head. Wrapped in his dress, in wisdom rank supreme. The Therayupatissa meditating deep. His thought transcending acts percipient, disciple of the Supreme Buddha, he. Thus far in Aryan silence was immersed. Even as a mountain crag unshaken stands. Sure-based, a monk with illusions gone. Like to that mountain stands unwavering. Now one day, through the Thera's absence of mind, the lap of his robe hung down. And a novice said, "Your reverence, it should be draped around you." Then Sariputta, nodding, said, "Good, you have done well to say so." And going a little way, he draped his robe round him. And showing that for such as he that was a fault, he said, "The man of blameless life, whoever seeks for what is pure, did deem some trifling fault. That is no heavier than the tip of any hair, weighty as burden of the gravid cloud." Again he showed the equanimity of his mind in respect to living or dying with the verse, "Not glad am I to die nor yet to live. I shall lay down this mortal frame soon. With mind alert, with consciousness controlled. With thought of death I ease not, nor yet delight in living. I await the hour. Like any hireling who has done his task." Again, in teaching the path, he uttered these verses. "On both sides of the scene we look, and lo! It is dying, not the dearth of death we see, be it the backward or the forward view. Fulfill you then your course, lest you be lost. See that this moment pass not by for nothing. Even as a border city guarded well. Within, without, so guard you well yourselves. See that the moment pass not and be lost. For many mourn in woe that moment passed." Now one day, seeing the venerable Koṭṭhita the Great, he spoke 3 stanzas proclaiming his excellence. Whosoever serene and calm, dead to the world, can utter wise phrases with head uninflated. Unruffled, he did shake off naughty things, as they were forest leaves by wind God blown. Whosoever serene and calm, dead to the world, can utter wise phrases with head uninflated. Unruffled, he did strip off naughty things, as they were forest leaves by wind God blown. Calm and serene, by vice unharassed, free from all that hinders clarity of mind. Lovely in virtue, of discerning wit. He should end maker be of suffering.